Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. On today's episode, we will be looking briefly at the Avalanche schedule, but the preseason schedule. We're not at the grand poobah just yet. Let's let what just happened breathe a little bit, but we do have a preseason schedule out. The Avs make their first signing of this offseason with Andrew Cogliano. We will discuss that. Erik Johnson and his retirement plans or lack thereof. And Elliotte Friedman also reporting on the Avalanche. Their top priorities seem to be Darcy Kuemper and Val Nichushkin, but that doesn't stop the Marc-Andre Fleury rumors from circling. Let's get to it.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think the rumors for Marc-Andre Fleury will subside for the going to the Avalanche when he officially hangs them up. And maybe not even then. Maybe once he's like in the Hall of Fame, I think the rumors will eventually stop then. But until then, we're going to have to talk about it. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, everybody, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. And thank you for following us and making this your first listen of the day. Like I said, follow us on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel over on the YouTube. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. And I do want to say there's still some time left to vote on the Andre Burakovsky season grade. That is up right now on Twitter and on Instagram. So you can vote on one or both of those if you want to skew the voting, I guess. There's nothing stopping you from going to vote on both of them. And so, yeah, that's up until I think about noon. And then we will be discussing that grade, what the people of Twitter and Instagram thoughts, which is kind of neck and neck right now, as well as what Kyle and I think of Andre Burakovsky's grade.
My ballot has been cast, and I'm a little bit kinder
than you were with Abe Kubel, which surprises me a little bit because we're a little bit rough on Berkey for the duration of the season. So that'll be tomorrow. We'll be discussing that. For today, we got a preseason schedule for the Avalanche. It's like, I'm fine with it. I mean, the more hockey, the better. But it's just like, man, like, okay, I guess we are, as much as we want to celebrate this Stanley Cup victory for as long as humanly possible, and we will for the duration of the off season. The league doesn't wait for us to do that. So they put the preseason schedule out and we'll share it with you because why not? Starts on September 25th. They're playing three teams. They're playing Minnesota, they're playing Vegas, and they're playing Dallas. And they're playing each of those three teams twice. One with a split squad. The 27th. Some squads are going to be playing Vegas. The other remaining squads are going to be playing against Minnesota. Both those games are in Denver. And I think, I don't think many people get too excited for preseason. I think the only preseason that really gets people amped up is the NFL. And that's maybe, which is odd because that's like the most boring preseason. But I think it's just because people are excited that football season's here. But what are you taking out of this preseason schedule, if anything?
Dude, NHL preseason gets me going. I like especially
the actual games or just knowing that the season's around the corner.
Well, like you mentioned, like our first game is September 25th. And it's against Minnesota. And after all that time, like we're now just finishing the 4th of July. This is September 25th. Like you are itching and you're done watching the 96 Cup team play all their games. You're done watching the 01. You're now going to be watching the 22 team going for the Cup. Like you've exhausted literally everything at that point. Like you're excited. And like, it's always great to see Minnesota again, no matter what team they roll out on the ice. Like I look forward to these games. You remember it was last year we had to watch like that janky Minnesota YouTube stream. Like we sat there and watched it together. It was rough, but like that's like I get that same feeling like the NFL. Like I get that same way for the NHL preseason. So I'm excited, and especially like you'll get your first real look at this new Avalanche team. So yeah, like even though the
I-
games are pretty crappy, like you're excited to see your boys out there skating
Sure.
around and
Yeah.
being as a team.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get me excited where like I have to sit down and watch the games. I'll seek them out if there's some, 8-bit version
Oh,
that on
that game was
YouTube.
so rough.
I
Everything
forgot
else was
about
on
that.
altitude,
I
but
forgot about that. Yeah. But it's just exciting that, there's a preseason schedule out. And like you said, it's starting October 25th. It's ending October 5th. And then the season starts right after that. And
yep.
then, especially this year, like that's what you're looking forward to because that banner is going to go up. I want to know who they're playing game one because I want to know who's going to have to sit and watch that banner go up. And God, I hope it's Vegas.
Oh, that'd be nice.
I don't know, but
Or we
so
could
that's
get
that.
Nashville out there. They're really good at raising
They
banners.
like banners, so maybe yeah. Yeah. I'm not whatever. That would be funny though. So yeah, you have your preseason schedule, and the Avs get their first signing of the offseason in Andrew Cogliano. And I think he was one of those guys that was maybe on the verge of staying or leaving, but he's one of those guys that with them signing him, it's a 1-year deal, $1.25 million. It's not breaking the bank for a guy what you're getting from him. And I think that's why the Avs want to bring him back. He's not this young guy that just maybe outperformed himself for a season and you don't really know like if he's going into his age 26 year, you know what I mean? Like you know what you're getting Andrew Cogliano, and they knew what they were getting from him when they traded for him. They liked what they got. I think it's a great move. I like it. It's a good number, and you can slot him in on a bottom 6 role and be comfortable with him out there.
Yeah, and we mention all the time when it's like the Kadri deal, all these other deals, you want to have that loyalty deal. I feel like honestly, Cogliano could have been a 1-year, 1 million guy. I feel like the 1.25 is a hey, thank you for last year. Like I feel like they kind of overshot him a little bit. Like that 1.25, I feel was a thank you for
Yeah,
everything last year.
sure.
Come play with us one more time. So there's no, I can't believe they gave him 1.25. Like, let's not go pitchforks
No,
and like flaming torches like he did. Like, this is good. Like,
and
and you know what? You know what you're getting out of Cogliano.
you do,
So,
and I think it's a little bit interesting that they signed him. Joe Sakic likes to keep this team as young as possible,
mhm,
but I think he has to grow with it. Like all those guys you signed when they were young are obviously getting older, so he can't just get rid of those guys and just keeping this team on the bottom end of the 20s. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you have those. So I think I thought he would bring in veterans like he did at the trade deadline.
yeah,
I mean, he seems to do that, especially with, when he brought in when he brought back Soderberg, when he brought back Nemeth, like he was bringing back guys that are, yeah,
mhm,
low to mid 30 age. And I think he likes to do that on trade deadline. So to do it with Cogliano, who's 35, um, right off the bat, like, so you're going to have him, you're going to have Erik Johnson. If you try to bring Kadri back, he's 32, 33, so I think it's an interesting dynamic that Joe Sakic has to play with because you have those guys, like, your guys that you grew up with. Your
yeah,
Gabe Landeskog's, he's approaching 30. Rantanen's high end of what's he, 27, 28, or same thing with Nathan McKinnon. Like all those guys are getting out, so you have to. You're still going to go with those guys. You're not going to get rid of them. So this is kind of like a new era for Joe Sakic in the Avalanche, where it was used to be just youth. Now it's like mid-range guys, and I'm not going to completely ignore those elder statesmen because it's good to have those guys on your team. And instead of inheriting them on the trade deadline, I'm going to bring them in right off the bat, beginning of the season.
yeah. And you also have to think like we mentioned it when we talked to producer Drew. Like camp is coming up, training camp, like a full training camp, and like there's some Eagles going to be there. Like we talk
Mhm.
about like Cogliano, yes, he's older, but there are going to be a couple Eagles fighting for that position because you know what you're getting out of that bottom six. You know what your forwards look like. There
Right.
are going to be some guys that, honestly, that bottom six, all of it's up for grabs, honestly. Like,
But not for him.
not for not for
yeah.
Cogliano, but
Okay.
like to have Cogliano there during that training camp, like, hey, bud, why don't you
Like pushing those guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
like try, you know what you're getting out of that 1 year, like pull a guy aside, like, hey, why don't you like run it this way, shoot it this
Right.
way, like this is what I did here when I was insert name here. Like
Sure.
it's one of those peer-to-peer things, and I feel like you're buying that like that old guy story, like where you're like, okay, yeah, let me try that, and it's a
Well, like
peer
we
to
were saying yesterday, like the Avs, they're going to want to start to bring these younger guys up at some point.
Mhm.
You know, you brought your youth up as your core. And now you do need, I mean, you can't just have those guys and like, you got to have a good dynamic. You got to have a good range. And I think that's a good point. I think bringing up some during training camp, the younger guys, which eventually will take the more of a role, can learn from, you know, those guys like Cogliano and Erik Johnson and things like that. So yeah, that's a good point. What do you think this means for, you know, signings? Everybody's looking, and we'll get to you know, Nichushkin and guys like that, like the ones that you want to see done first. Those are more complicated deals than for, you know, someone like Andrew Cogliano. That's a pretty simple deal. Hey, this is what we're offering. You know, there's not much going back and forth for that. You think we'll see a few more of those first before we get to the big guns, like Darren Helm if they want to resign him, like Nico Sturm if they want to bring him back? I think this is what you see in the beginning before you get to the big fish.
Yeah, Darren Helm, like Sturm, is one of those that you're kind of you don't know what you're getting there. Like I
Mhm.
don't that one you don't know. Darren Helm, that's a possibility. Like if he comes right back through the door, maybe the same like 1 year, maybe I doubt it's any more than that. I
I'd
think
love
it's
him back.
yeah.
I
Hey,
would absolutely love that guy back.
I would too. And if
Yeah.
it's a carbon copy of this deal right here, oh, sign me up. Let's go. Let's
Yeah,
run it back.
absolutely. And then you
Eh,
have, you know, two depth guys for not that much, what depth guys aren't anyway, but um I I'd like to see him done like I said, minus the big names. As far as depth guys goes, I would love to see Darren Helm get done next
Yep.
and get that out of the way. So
And they're not going to be occupying a spot on this roster all year long. Like honestly, like these bodies can only give you 50, 60 games out of 82 game regular season.
well, you never know. I mean, injuries are a fluky thing. You have no idea, and you know, with another age comes another age of aching bones, and you're playing a pretty brutal sport. And you know, and Helm's game is kind of predicated on some speed, so maybe he
Yeah.
loses a step here. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that go into it, but I'm okay with this Cogliano signing. I think it's a really good deal for the Avs, and I would love to see Helm, like you said, something similar. Bring him back, even if it's for a year. I'm okay with that. Follow it up. All right, let's hear from Bet Online and then Erik Johnson. When you were kind of throwing out possibilities of retirement, maybe pump the brakes on that just a little bit. But first, betonline.net. It's your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. And I mean, I guess you could bet on if you think Erik Johnson's going to retire. Some news today might have the odds going in a different direction, but I mean, why not? Take a long shot at it. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season with the All-Star game coming up, I think, right around the corner, is it
Yeah,
not?
I
Yeah.
think so.
BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting and esports, and it remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news for this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sporting events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline.net, where the game starts. Erik Johnson, can't say. I mean, his offseason has been interesting. He has
Oh,
found that Instagram live button, and he is using. I think he's worn out that button on his smartphone. It's a riot watching this guy celebrate. So in that
Unlimited
aspect,
data plan.
in that aspect, you love seeing, like, especially hockey players, you love seeing them be a little bit more out there because usually they're not. So when they're doing things like this, you just eat it up. And for the Avs and for Avs faithful, like, they are big Erik Johnson fans. He's a crowd favorite. He's a fan favorite. And a lot of people were questioning, you and I both. You saw him skating around in an empty arena at Amalie Arena down in Tampa. After everything was said and done, he went back out and just skated around. I mean, you can't look at that and say, like, that's a guy who's contemplating his future. Yeah. And he was living it up at the parade, even the couple of days that followed the parade. It's just, it wasn't out of character, but putting everything out there on social media, every time he did that, I'm just like, I think he's gonna phone it in. Why not? You end on a cup final, everything that you've been chasing your entire year. You still have 1 year left on your deal. I get that. For $6 million, money's really probably not important to him right now. But we got today from Elliot Friedman that he had spoken to him, and Johnson said he's got no plans to retire. And the thing that I took out of it was, it seemed like even after next year, when his contract runs out, he might even want to play beyond that. So we're going to get Erik Johnson for next year. I think everybody's happy with that for the most part. But are you a little surprised that he's coming back? You thought he was going to end this, like we were making fun of, riding his horses off into the sunset. It's going to have to be put on hold for a little while.
I don't think EJ has stopped drinking since we won the cup. And
No.
I don't, when I read that today, I don't know if I fully believe it yet still.
Really?
We just talked about how beneficial training camp is. This is the thing that once the adrenaline of the winning the cup with your boys, like, once that kind of settles down, and then you have to start getting ready for training camp, getting your body back into hockey shape, because guess what? Every member of this Avalanche team just beat their bodies up a little bit more celebrating this cup.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Right.
So now you got to get out of bed. You got to get back in shape. Yeah, you could say with, like, being the champion of the world, yeah, I'm definitely coming back. Like, let's do this again. But then your body's going to tell you another story.
Right.
And I feel like the story's not done yet with EJ. I feel like we'll have to see. If he's there at training camp, then there's your answer. But there's a lot of time between now and training camp, and I just don't know if, especially when you hear him talking. I heard his interview with the Chicklets guys, and the way he talked about, like, his health and his body, I just don't know. Like, how can you flip a switch like that?
Well, on one end, like everything that I just laid out, it would make sense why he would retire. On the other end, we always say, like, these guys that finally win it, these guys are in the twilight of their career, and it's a great story that they finally went, like John Elway, right? And here's a perfect example. John Elway. We know everything that he went through, and then he finally wins it. And right after that first one, they were asking questions like, are you done? Are you going to retire? And then he took some time, and then he's like, I'm not done. I'm not done competing. Yeah. And I think for when we have guys like, John Elway and Erik Johnson, and they finally get one, and like I said, they're at the end of their careers, we all think, like, that's the perfect ending. Like right off into the sunset, that's a perfect ending. But for these guys, they've never won one before, and they've never defended it either.
True.
So I think they want that as well. I think they want the feeling of, how do I play the following season defending it? And I think for Erik Johnson, I think what lines up perfectly is what's happening. He won the cup. He's got 1 more year left on his deal. Play that as a defending champion. And then when that's all said and done, if you win another one next year, I think, all right, what else you got to prove, man? You know what I mean? Like you've won 2 in a row. You're the number 1 overall pick. Like you're beloved in Colorado. Then you rethink it, because after next year, I don't know. I wouldn't even know if the Avalanche would want him to sign him
Yeah.
for another deal. You know what I mean? Like now you're getting. I think then it would be time to hang it up. So I get it. I could see both ways, but for an athlete, for these guys just love competing, he's not ready to end it. And I genuinely think he wants to play a season as a defending champion.
Yeah, and it's the same thing like when we were talking about the preseason schedule. We're like, can we not still celebrate this cup? But like
Mhm.
eventually you got to go back to work, and EJ's got to go back to work, and we'll see if that drive and to defend it is still there. Like you bring up a great point. Like he's still got one more year. It's not like we're
Yeah.
asking him like the Avs to sign him, and like he's got one more year. He's promised one more year,
Yeah.
so we'll see
And
how it goes.
you look at, like I said, with John Elway, he did the following year, won another one, and then he's like, I've won 2 in a row. His body was just failing him, so he's like, now's the perfect time. And then you look at a guy like Peyton Manning, won one earlier in his career, and then didn't win one till the end. And then when they get that second one, he's like, "What? I'm done. I'm done." So, I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves with. I mean, he says he's coming back, and I don't want to look beyond that year, next year that he says he's coming back. But if things go the way that they go, like say John Elway's career could be the last one, but I would want to know. I would want to know, like, go for him to say, like, going into next year, like, this is going to be it. Because I
Yeah,
like when you can celebrate those guys during the regular season, and they just don't like throw it on you when the season's over, or in April when they're like, yeah, this is going to be it for me. Because then you look back and you're like, I would have like appreciated it a little bit more. So I'm not saying he owes us anything, but it'd be nice to know a little bit ahead of time, EJ, if you
yeah.
want to throw it out there. Come on
It
the
takes
show and announcement if you want to. I don't
Yeah, come on, EJ. Come on here, talk about it. We'll make you a cake. It takes a while to make a cake. I can't
care.
just throw one together.
Yeah. Or eggnog cookies. We send you some of those.
Eggnog cookies.
There you go. All right. More from Elliot Friedman said the Avs are focused on Darcy Kuemper and Val Nichushkin. Nichushkin, we knew that's going to primary focus. It doesn't surprise me that they want Darcy Kuemper back. I figured that he would be someone that they want to negotiate with. But he's going to be an interesting one. Nichushkin, I feel like they can afford. I don't feel like there is a team. Maybe there is. There's 31 other teams in this league. Maybe there's a team that just throws ridiculous money at Val Nichushkin. And even if they do, I don't know. We were talking about it yesterday with producer Drew. I just feel like he is so thankful
Yeah.
to the Avalanche franchise that the things that we were saying with Philip Grubauer on, them being a little bit close, and he took the extra $600,000. I just kind of get a vibe that if that's the case with another team, Nichushkin won't do that.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like he'll stay here. So, it doesn't surprise me that he's big or high on their list, and it does not surprise me that Darcy Kuemper is either.
Yeah, Nuke is one of those that you feel like it's going to get done. It'll probably be done as soon as you hear this episode. It has that feeling.
You think so?
Like he feels like number one, like who you want back. And it's not like he's going to Boston. That's where Jim Montgomery is. And Rick Bonus is in Winnipeg. So those are two guys that gave up on him. So I just
true.
like, I feel like Nuke coming back is inevitable. Darcy Kuemper, I would love to hear what terms they're talking and how close they are, because that interests me. And like for him to be, I haven't heard a peep about Nazem Kadri. So let's
no, nothing yet. Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
I mean,
but
that'll pick up. That'll pick up. But how I'm feeling like there's gonna be teams that want Val Nichushkin. Don't get me wrong. I think because of the slim pickings at the goalie position, I just feel like there's going to be a team that offers Kuemper more than what he deserves, I want to say. I do. I just think that, and now he's got the championship on his back. I don't know what that team is. Could it be Edmonton? Maybe. That just throws ungodly money at him, and that would maybe pull him away. I don't know. I get it. I have a good vibe about Nichushkin at a good number, and I feel the complete opposite. And you would think it would be the opposite. I feel like between those two guys, I think Nichushkin is the more valuable player.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like, he's staying put, and I think someone's going to throw crazy money at Darcy Kuemper because goalies, you can, if you miss out on Nichushkin, you can find another forward. There's, hundreds of forwards to choose from and not much for goalies. So that's why I feel like there's a team that's just going to overpay for Darcy Kuemper, and I wouldn't fault him for taking it, but I kind of feel that he will. I want him back.
Yeah.
But I just don't have a good feeling that he's staying.
Yeah, you definitely feel like, you mentioned it's hard to find a good comparable goalie in free agency this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to go out there and overpay Darcy Kuemper. And best of luck if you do, bud. But if you stay, it's going to be the best situation, but you got to work with this money wise. Nuke, it's going to be a lot. I'll say this right now. It's going to be harder to replace Nuke than it is Darcy Kuemper. For what he brings to this team and how he meshes and gels. Like we talked about it when he was injured. Like you miss him. Like the team misses him. The vibe, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
You could swap a goalie all day long. We've done it time and time again. Nuke is going to be a big miss.
I mean, I think you'd miss both these guys, but I think you'd miss Nichushkin more, obviously. Yeah. And with that, once again, we are getting Marc-Andre Fleury rumors heading to not that he's heading to Colorado.
Package him with Sidney Crosby, please.
Yeah.
Just get it over with.
Yeah, right. And Taylor Hall for some. He's a
of course.
Even though he's not a free agent, but you know what I mean. I get it. I mean, he's a free agent. Would it make sense? I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't feel like the Avs would go down that road unless it was necessary. You know what I mean? Sure, there's probably going to have some conversations with him just to do their due diligence, see where his head's at. Because it seems like for the past couple of years, every time the season's over, the question is Marc-Andre Fleury going to be the one to retire? Yeah. And he keeps hanging around, and that's his right. And it's like we said before with Erik Johnson, like he's not ready to finish competing. I just don't know what the interest is. I think the interest for the Avalanche is not because they want him to take over the spot. I think it's more or less like if we can't sign Kuemper and somebody else that may be high on our list, then we'll go the Fleury route. You know what I mean? I just don't get the impression that the Avs want to bring him in to be the guy because he's 37 years old. I don't know, his birthday is going to be 38 at the start of the season. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Fine. Say he's 37 years old. Like, I'm just not there. You love the guy. He's got a great personality, just like Darcy Kuemper. And I was talking with somebody online about it. Just sign him for 2 years. If you can't get the Kuemper deal done, you sign Fleury for 2 years. And then, then what do you do with, you have your boy, Frankie, as another backup. And at some point, you got to bring up Justus Annunen. Is that it? Like we were saying before with this training camp stuff? Fleury would be a good, father figure for someone like Annunen. I don't know. I can't get there. I can't get there as to why the need would be for Fleury other than they have no other options.
For the benefit of everyone watching on YouTube, you can read my lips. And for everyone listening, I'm going to get real close to your ear holes. No. No.
For what reason, though?
He almost retired 10 games into the season last year. He's been moved. And it was like you're going to get maybe 20 or 30 games out of him in Colorado. Marc-Andre Fleury is at a point in his life where he doesn't want to keep moving around and get traded. And like every day, if he has a bad game, is this Marc-Andre Fleury? Is this the end of Marc-Andre Fleury? This is not the storyline we need in Colorado. Like, what does he have to prove by coming to Colorado? What else is on the table? Like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you're not going to stop hearing these storylines until he's in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame goalie. Like, he doesn't have anything to prove, and coming to Colorado does nothing for him. Like, if you want to go somewhere and disappear, go play in Vancouver. Like, you don't have to come here and go through the training camp and go through everything and then hear, oh, Frankie's going to surpass Flower, or here comes Justus Annunen. Like, we don't need Marc-Andre Fleury because his body can't hold up. He's not the same as he used to be. Yes, it's a great story, but 20 or 30 games possibly out of Fleury is not going to be enough to like wow me.
But I don't think he would want to come here with that in mind. Like if he came here, it would be I am the starter and I'm playing way more than 20 or 30 games. You know what I mean? He's only 1 year removed from a Vezina Trophy season.
I feel like his body says otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's always in the cards for someone his age and especially at goal. That's always something that but that's also true for every other player on the team. Sure, maybe it's a little bit more because of his age, but I feel like he's not going to go somewhere to be a liability. It's two different aspects you have to look at it. You have to look at it from his point of view, and I think if he genuinely felt he couldn't hold up for the duration of a season, he would walk away. But if he's hanging around, and he's not a guy that's going to want to be a backup, you know what I mean? He is a career starter. So he's going to want to go somewhere to play the bulk of the games. If he feels like that's in Colorado, then he might have some interest in Colorado. I just don't know if that's reciprocated. I don't know if the Avalanche are saying like our where we are in goal right now and where we have these guys ranked is we're going to have Marc-Andre Fleury over Darcy Kuemper. That's not happening. That is not happening. And it's like I said before, if Kuemper goes somewhere else, it was kind of like what they had to do with Philip Grubauer. Yep. Grubauer was number one on the list of shoring up their goalie situation. He left. Is like, okay, now that it's panic mode, but it a little bit was, and they gave up a pretty penny to bring Kuemper in. It worked out in the end, but that's not the same deal to go get Marc-Andre Fleury. If you have to, then I think you do it because he's still got some gas in the tank. But I think there's other guys, and if other guys are, it's not like it's Darcy Kuemper 1 and they can't get him. Marc-Andre Fleury is number 2. I would put Husso up there at number 2.
Yes.
I might even put Husso at like 1A. I deal with those two guys simultaneously and see what the better deal is. And if that doesn't work out, I think you would have no option but to at least entertain bringing Fleury in. But he's not option number 1.
I feel like Flower has the same problem Darcy Kuemper has. When anyone else in the league mentions Darcy Kuemper, you think Arizona. When you hear Flower, you think Vegas. He's put on 2 jerseys since then. Yeah. And I implore you to go back and look at his Chicago stint. The man lost his love for hockey in Chicago.
Bad team, though, man. That's a bad team.
Well, goes to Minnesota, the quote-unquote state of hockey, until we took that from you. And I guess that kind of lit his fire a little bit, but like
then they benched him.
Exactly.
Which I don't know why. I don't understand that, but I don't agree with it.
It's not a storyline and a caliber player the Avalanche need right now, honestly. And like everybody loves to bring it up in the YouTube comments. Team Frankie, I'd rather take Darcy and Kuemper than Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh God, yeah, I would, especially after what he just did with this team.
Yep,
the comfortability is there. Yeah. So I don't know, man. We shall see. Like, this is the interesting stuff of the off season. I don't know. Well, it starts next week, which we'll be watching with a keen eye on so many things with the Avs. The goalie position is definitely one of them. So I don't know. I feel like they won with this team. You would have to imagine they want to bring back as many guys as possible to recreate it, and of course add some pieces. If Kadri walks, obviously you need someone to replace him. So do you go out somewhere into the free agency market to find something. That's what I'm saying. Like, you want to bring back as many as possible, and the guys you can't, you need to replace them with somebody as good, which that's going to be tricky for the Avs. You can't bring in someone and say, like, let's hope he's as good as Nazem Kadri. You have to bring him in and know that he will be. Yeah. So we got to see if Joe's got some tricks up his sleeve. So, all right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow with that Andre Burakovsky grade. There's still some time to vote. If you haven't done so yet, head on over to Twitter or Instagram and vote. And then if we get any other news that comes out during the day, obviously we will be talking about that tomorrow as well. But until tomorrow, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.